Today on the channel, we're going to show the differences between this 2020 Gibson Les Paul Studio, a 2020 Les Paul Standard, and a brand new Murphy Lab R0. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to compare my 2010 Gibson Les Paul Studio to a 2019-2020 Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s model, and then we're going to stack it up against a brand new Murphy Lab R0, which is a 1960 reissue, ultra light aged Murphy Lab Les Paul. So we're going to take a look at all three of these guitars, do an in-depth review and a sound demo, and see what are the differences in tonality, craftsmanship, wiring, etc. So I hope you find this interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, here's the 2010 Gibson Les Paul Studio. My very first introduction to owning a Gibson Les Paul Studio was back in about 1991. My mom bought me a Les Paul Studio and it was black. And I absolutely loved it. And for anybody that wants to get into the Les Paul game, a Les Paul Studio is a great way to get started. I caution you, you'll probably get addicted to Gibson Les Pauls. That's what happened to me. Maybe not, they may not be your thing, but studios are excellent. I think all the models and the makes out there that I've played have been decent. This one's a 2010, as I stated earlier. This one has a little bit of a chambered body from what I have read. It feels a little bit lighter, which that's okay. Weight relief is not a bad thing. Sometimes I feel like lighter Gibson Les Pauls are sometimes a little bit more resonant. Sometimes they carry a little bit different tone. They're a little breathier. This one's in a little bit rough shape. You can pick these things up pretty affordably. They keep getting a little bit more expensive as the years go by. This thing used, I think I got this for around $600, $650, maybe 7 months ago. One of the main differences in the Les Paul Studios and a Gibson Les Paul Standard is this is just a piece of mahogany. There's no maple cap. There's no binding around the edge to keep the maple cap on the guitar. The electronics are excellent. The standard Gibson Tune-o-matic bridge. These come with a 498T and a 490R pickup. These are really hot Gibson pickups. You find these pickups in a lot of customs. You find them in SG models. Some people think they're a little bit too hot, but I guess it just depends on your style. I like a 498. I think it's got a good Van Halen tone. I prefer a Burstbucker 2 and a Burstbucker 1 combination. I love classic 57s, but I dig 498s and 490Rs. I think they're very good pickups. So yeah, these come with a pick guard, trapezoid inlays. One thing that I don't like about the Gibson Les Paul Studios is I've gotten used to playing my standards and customs and various Les Pauls that I own is not having neck binding is a big issue for me. I'm so used to playing Les Pauls with neck binding that now that I bought this recently and I've been playing it, I couldn't really pinpoint what the difference was, what was not in favor of what I like normally, and it comes down to the neck binding. Neck binding is excellent once you get used to it. Let me flip this thing over and we'll take a look at it. Hey buddy, what's up? Okay, the back of this guitar has got some wear and tear. This is just natural playing, which I dig. I think that's cool. Back of the neck is in decent shape. There's a few nicks and dings here and there. The Gibson Les Paul Studios have these vintage style tuners. I'm not a big fan of these tuners. They're okay, but they seem to fail more commonly than like the standard Grover or kidney bean tuners that you see on some of the higher end Gibsons. But this is historic. but they do tend to go bad from time to time. They're cheap to replace. Get some close-ups of what this baby looks like. Yeah, I mean, nothing much to see. It's a Gibson Les Paul. Bare bones. This is just a pure rocker. Studios are excellent rock and roll machines. I'm going to open up the cavities. We'll take a look in there. I've yet to ever look in the cavities of this, so we'll see if anybody's done any soldering or any different wiring or anything like that. I doubt that's going to happen, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, so here's the internal volume and tone pot cavity. I'm not a fan of these circuit board setups that Gibson uses on a lot of the guitars. It makes it easier to install, probably less time consuming, no soldering. And when you want to replace pickups, you can get these connectors and replace your bridge or your neck pickup. But you know, if one pot goes bad, you're stuck. Say for instance that pot goes bad, you got to replace the whole circuit board, and or just replace the pots in general, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I know a lot of guys that go in and just replace all this stuff when they see it with just the way that it should be, standalone pots. But yeah, circuit board 2010, the 90s models did not have this. This is something that started probably around 2010, I would assume. Then we look in here and we've got your typical, you know, Switchcraft three-way switch, three-way toggle switch. All the routing on this looks good. Everything looks really nice. You know, just not a fan of the circuit board stuff, but it sounds great. This looks all original, and this guitar is 13 years old and plays flawlessly. So, you know, is it really that big of a concern? Maybe not. Okay, so here we've got the 1960s Gibson Les Paul standard. This one is sort of an unburst looking flame top. What drew me to this guitar was how the top of this was flamey, and then this down here was sort of mismatched. I just thought that was really cool, and then it picks up a little bit more here. Anyway, it drew me in, and I really like these knobs. I like the way that it just looks super classy. These are very nice guitars. They come with 60s wound humbuckers, burst bucker pickups. So they're like a burst bucker, but Gibson claims they're wound to be more like the humbuckers in the 60s, with orange drop capacitors. They're supposed to roll off really nice and provide a really super sweet tone, and I would agree, they're very hot pickups. I think these pickups are a little bit hotter than your typical burst buckers. I would say maybe closer to a burst bucker 3 perhaps. I prefer a burst bucker 2, but I love this guitar. It sounds fantastic. This guitar is kind of my go-to for any kind of Guns N' Roses type stuff. It does 80s metal, excellent. Rolls back, does blues, very, very good. As you can see with this one, you've got the binding on the neck. Gibson Plex the necks and the frets on these guitars. So the fretwork on this guitar is outstanding. Just a wonderful, wonderful job on the frets. The fretboard feels very, very smooth. The studios are a little rougher feeling on the neck. I can't quite explain it. I know the binding does change a lot for me as far as holding the neck. It feels more comfortable. This is a slimmer style neck. The 60s Les Pauls aren't very thick, the neck isn't thick like a 58. Very slim tapered neck, very comfortable in your hands. I like a thick neck, but the Studio is a beefier neck, lighter guitar than this. This one obviously has the maple cap, flame maple cap attached to the mahogany. The binding process, the maple, all the workmanship that goes into this is very expensive. This is an expensive piece of wood. It's an expensive process, and you pay dearly for it. Any guitar that's got a true 1/4 inch flame maple cap that's bound onto the body is going to add expense. All right, so let's flip this baby over and take a look at the back side of it. Here's the back. Very beautiful paint job. You can see one solid piece of mahogany here. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of wood. Let me get up close to the wood grain on it. The closer you get, it just really pops. It's outstanding. Get the edge here, get the side. It's a little dirty, a little grubby. We've got your Grover kidney bean style tuners, which are my favorite. This one, interestingly enough, is stamped like a 19, but I got this in 2020, so I guess this is a 2019, even though I bought it late 2020. I like the tops on these better than the 50s series. I do like the 1950s models, thicker neck on those. So we'll take the covers off of this one and take a look at the internal cavities as well. All right, here's the inside of the cavity here where the volume and the tone pots are. There's some big orange drop capacitors in there. Man, this looks great. Very clean. Really not much to say about it. Looks excellent in there. This is the first time I've ever looked in here. I've had no need really to take a look at it. But yeah, there you go. Very awesome. All right, and then here's our huge Switchcraft three-way switch. Excellent routing. You can see, looks like there's a lot of wax residue when they were buffing these guitars. That's cool. I guess that's what that is. Excellent. All right, so here we have the Murphy Lab R0. This is a brand new Murphy Lab custom shop 1960s model. This one is supposed to replicate the 1960s the Les Paul perfectly, right down to the Alnico 3 custom buckers. The Alnico 3 custom buckers in this guitar sound absolutely phenomenal. I can't even explain how good they sound. It's just the way it makes you play is different. It's just very inspiring. Who knows if it's even that big of a tonal difference for those listening to it, but for the player, it makes all the difference in the world. I personally think you can hear it. We're going to do some sound demos of these guitars just after I review this one here closely, and we'll get some audio examples so we can judge it and rate it. One disappointing thing about this guitar is this particular model, these silver labels fell off of my guitar. I have no idea where they're at. Might have fell off at a gig or in transit. So I'm going to get those replaced. Those are under warranty. So I've got some free knobs coming to me. Not a big issue, but I mean, geez, guys, I mean, seriously, this is an issue with these knobs. I don't know. I've seen it on Philip McKnight's video. He had a brand new Gibson that these fell off. This one, it fell off. Of my own personal collection, I've had another guitar where they fell off, and I saw one at a store the other day where one of them was missing. So there's an issue with whoever makes those knobs. I don't think that's Gibson's fault, but dude, something's going on with those knobs. Anyway, I digress. This guitar has a beautiful flame maple top. One thing that I really love about this top is how you've got this piece right here. It's got this in it. I just think that's the coolest little match, or coolest thing in the wood. I mean, I don't know what you'd call that. If that's like just how the tree grew, just the figuring, and that's just really, really cool. Let's get a close up of how this looks, how this matches up. It's book matched pretty close. In the right light, this guitar Sometimes it looks lemon, sometimes it looks like a really light orange burst. Indian rosewood fretboard, bound, wonderful. This fretboard feels great. It's got the 60s slim tapered neck, very much like the Gibson Les Paul standard 1960s model that I just showed you all. This guitar stays in tune tremendously. I can't say anything bad about this guitar other than, you know, you have to sell a kidney pretty much to get one of these unless you can find one at a used price affordably, but they're worth it. You can't really see the Murphy Lab aging on this due to the lighting, but I'm going to try to catch some of it. This is the ultra light aged. Up near that poker chip you can kind of see where there's finish cracks. You can see it now that I'm getting up close to it and kind of going slow. A lot of it looks like it's the grain, but it's the lines. I just had a chance to look at a mandolin from like 1947 that was a Martin, and the neck and the headstock on that Martin looked exactly like how the Murphy Labs do this aging. I'm trying to get up there so you can see the lines on it, but it was identical. I mean, the Martin mandolin looked just like the way the Murphy Labs age their guitars. So it's genuine, man. It's very authentic aging. I don't know if that does anything for the playability or if it just makes us feel better like we have a pretend vintage guitar, but I think the aging process, I think it does something, whether it's the nitro that they spray it with and then they age it and it's very light. I don't know if it makes it more porous or what, but this guitar has magic. Unexplainable. Let's flip it over and take a look at the back side. Okay, so here's the back. Very similar to that 1960s Les Paul that we just looked at. Here we've got the custom 70th anniversary plate on it. Look at the grain on that. It's outstanding. You can see the aging. I'm trying to catch it in the right light. We can see the little bit of the cracks in the nitro. Some people like relic stuff, some don't. I don't mind. I think it's cool. And here we go with the neck. Gonna show some of the close-ups of what the light aging looks like on that. Try to catch it at a different light here. Of course, these have the vintage style tuners. That's only appropriate. I like the newer style Grover tuners better, but I've had no issues with these. But that's, you know, they're going to make it just like the 60s. They got to make it like that, so it's got to be right down to spec. Okay, so we'll take a look at the inside of the cavities on this guitar. Okay, it's like taking a trip back in a time machine to the 60s. Take a look at those capacitors. Sorry for the shaky camera here. Got the Gibson pots on there. Got a R0 stamp on the inside. Right there's a clinic for 60s wiring. All right, let's take a look. Nothing really too exciting, but there's the old switchcraft in there for what it's worth. All right, so let's do some sound tests and check these three out. Do a side-by-side comparison. Okay, so that concludes our comparison between these three Les Paul models. Which one did you like the best? I personally think they all sound great. I have my personal preference, but I'd like to hear yours in the comments below. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, and as always, have a great day. Peace out.